Hey everyone, my name's Julie Caraccio. Welcome to my Google Hangout series, Reawaken Your Brilliance Artist. When I did my normal show, Reawaken Your Brilliance, I'd had win an interview because I know there are amazing people out there doing wonderful things and I wanted to give them a platform to get the word out about what they were doing. And the past 2 years, an artist won. And so that got me thinking and I thought, wow, there are all these amazing artists. And not only are they sharing their art, but they're making us think. They are contributing something. And so I thought it would be really neat to bring on different artists and let them share what they're doing and all that wonderful stuff. I'm also motivated because my mother, whose age I will not name, started painting 10 years ago and she discovered she had this talent, and it's the one time when she's relaxed and she's happy, and so it's never too late to begin your life as an artist. And in the same token, we found my 8-year-old niece has a painting ability, and so I want to encourage young people to do their art as well and get rid of this notion that you have to be a starving artist. Artists are wonderful, and let's buy quality stuff instead of all this mass-produced junk. So today I'm very excited to welcome Erin Hanson, and Erin's kind of our first official interview that wasn't the winner of the contest, so I'm super excited to have her on. After a lifetime of experimenting in different styles and mediums, it wasn't until Erin Hanson moved to the outskirts of Las Vegas to climb at Red Rock Canyon that her painting style was consolidated by a single inspiration and force of nature. While an undergraduate at UC Berkeley, Hanson took pause from art to get a degree in bioengineering. While studying microbiology and multivariable calculus, Hanson still found time to paint. Her final inspiration to become a full-time professional artist, however, came with a fortuitous move to Las Vegas. Through the years, Hanson has continued to use the outdoors to inspire a huge collection of work. She visits the Colorado Plateau every year, backpacking and hiking through areas such as Zion National Park, Canyonlands, and the Grand Canyon. Avid collectors span the globe, and Hanson shows her work in top-rated art festivals and galleries across the United States. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me on.
I'm super excited. So I'm curious if I thought it was really interesting when reading about you, about your mathematic background and biology. I was like, wow, how interesting is that? Have you found that that plays a way into your art? For instance, I think there's a deep connection between science and spirituality. Many times people will see them at odds, but I see them rather as connecting. How about you?
I absolutely agree with you. I get asked all the time how I manage to have both a right brain and a left brain. And to me, well, obviously I have both sides of the brain. Some of my earliest memories are both of painting and reading my dad's old college textbooks on biology and being really interested in science and math. And there is absolutely a science behind art as well in terms of the technology of color theory, composition, layout. You know, these things are all science-based.
Now, I love your work. Now, I'm going to assume that that's one of your paintings just by what I've seen on your website behind you.
The Eastern Sierras, where I was backpacking last November.
Now, I love, first of all, I love nature paintings, but I love your colors, and it, you know, it's kind of an impressionism. Can you talk about how maybe you came up with that, or do you just feel I can call it an impressionist style and that's fair?
It's definitely impressionism. I call my style open impressionism, just to state the fact that I have created this kind of unique style of painting over the past 20 years. But it definitely originated from childhood, loving Monet and Van Gogh and all the classic impressionists. And I also grew to respect plein air painters, because they were able to paint a scene or a tree in just a couple of brushstrokes and make it look so easy. And I would sit there and count the brushstrokes, be like, wow, they painted that tree in 4 brushstrokes. And so I've always striven to simplify my paintings and really use as few brushstrokes as possible to capture the essence of the landscape.
Now, you're painting again, and I have zero art ability. Well, that's not quite true, but I don't have a painter's vocabulary, an artist's vocabulary. I would describe your paintings as bright colors. Are you, is that something you're attracted to, you feel inspired to do?
Yes, absolutely. They are bright colors. I definitely only paint landscapes that have a lot of drama to them. And color is one of the things that we're drawn to in a landscape that makes us feel that emotional connection and that kind of spiritual release, if you know what I mean. If you've ever stood on the edge of the Grand Canyon or woken up at dawn in Zion National Park, or even, you know, a Joshua Tree, or some of our local, I live in California, so to me Joshua Tree is around the corner, and some people might consider that to be very drab and white granite rocks and scraggly, dented looking Joshua trees. But at certain times of the day, when the sun comes through and it just lights everything up in sherbets and lavenders and bright peach colors, and to me, that's what really inspires me about landscape painting, is the color.
Oh, it's beautiful, and I used to live in LA, so I've had the good fortune of visiting Joshua National Park, and when we were there, it rained. It was one of the rare times that there was actually rain, which was pretty amazing to see. So when someone is looking at you as an artist, what is your hope for someone to become inspired, to connect with nature, or you're just like, it's okay, they can just admire it and it's all good?
Well, there's a lot of different elements that come into play. Definitely, I want people to love the outdoors and, you know, feel a connection to our national parks. And I think for a lot of us, some of our fondest memories are of being outdoors, away from the city, out, even if it was as a child, camping or getting married somewhere, often on a beautiful coastline somewhere, or in a vineyard away from the city. A lot of people have very connected memories to a landscape that hasn't been covered in concrete yet. And so I know that's one reason why people are attracted to my work. And also, I just like people to be able to escape. You know, art is an escape. And to be able to put a painting in your home that's a little window into another universe, so you can kind of look at it and it makes your thoughts drift and kind of get away from your everyday problems. And that's a very important element of art to me.
Whenever I travel, I always buy art. That's the one thing that I'm willing to spend money on, because traveling means so much to me, and so I have that memory. And so it's very wonderful, and it takes me back there. Now I'm curious, when I posted this event, someone had asked about your technique. Would you be willing to talk about that a little bit, or share what you're comfortable?
Absolutely. I have taught a couple of workshops in open Impressionism, and what makes my style unique is, firstly, I don't layer my paintings. So when you get up close, you really see the texture and the immediacy of the work, because I'm not correcting, I'm not doing an underlayer and then covering it with something else, and covering it with something else, and waiting a month and covering it with something else. You know, the paint is a paint that I have placed on the canvas, and there it sits just as I placed it. So that's a rather unique approach to oil painting, for one thing. And the way I'm able to achieve that is, well, I think the easiest way to achieve that is by pre-mixing your entire color palette. And that's something that a lot of artists don't do. You know, they kind of mix as they go, right? And they might change their mind about the way a color should look, and so they might even use their brush to kind of scrabble some paint together, and then they're trying to fix it on the canvas. And that, you know, you're going to lose that immediacy of the texture and the freshness of the landscape if you start doing that. So that's the big thing I try to teach my students when I do teach my style.
Now, that you said was from a hike last year, do you take your paints, or do you sketch and then you come back to your studio and do your painting, or do you do it in nature?
Well, I have done a lot of plein air, especially when I was living in Las Vegas. Now that I'm a full-time artist, I mostly work in my studio. So I'm working from photo references that I take out in the field. Yes.
Okay.
And specific backpacking and hiking trips, at least 4 times a year, just to get out and soak in the landscape, so I can then bring it home and transfer it into beautiful oil paintings.
Now, are landscapes your main design? Obviously, from what I've seen on your website, do you do anything else, or you've just decided landscapes are it?
To me, landscapes are it. I mean, obviously, anyone that's been painting their whole life, they went through their different styles and things they like to paint. I used to paint portraits and animals, buildings even. When I was growing up, my dad told me if I wanted to grow up to be a painter, I had to do 5 drawings a day. So I was drawing everything around me. And I grew up in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. So what I saw around me was iron bars and, trees growing out of concrete, and my animals, and my face in the mirror, my hand holding a pen, drawing itself. So these are the things that I drew. Of course, in school I would take, I was always enrolled in art classes, and so I did a lot of still lifes and, some abstracts. I did sculpture, I did pen and ink, watercolor, acrylic, everything. But landscapes to me is where I can capture the most beauty and really give the most emotional impact in a painting.
Was there a moment when you had painted a landscape from kind of like, this is it, from now on, I'm going to concentrate on this?
That's a very definite moment, actually. I was literally driving from Los Angeles to Vegas. I'd never been to Vegas. I was moving there for business. I had my own business, and I was trying to expand it. And I had everything piled into my pickup truck. My mattress was flapping on top. I could see the shadow, my mattress flapping in the wind. I was just driving. And it was this huge life decision to move to a new city I'd never been to. And I was just looking at the landscape, driving up the 15 North. There's all these beautiful buttes, and the lighting was just amazing. And there was even clouds rolling in, and I was like, I could really paint this, because I knew I wanted to get back into my art. And I had the time now that my business was kind of taking off, so I was able to become a painter without having to be a starving artist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So my first week in Vegas, my apartment didn't have electricity on, so I camped out at Red Rock Canyon at the outskirts of Vegas, and I woke up 5 in the morning, and I said, I'm going to do my first plein air painting. So I picked up my canvas, and I walked to the top of the hill, and there was Red Rock Canyon spreading before me with beautiful red striated rocks reaching into the distance, and then rainbow mountains on the left, these giant cliffs with red stripes. And I was like, I could paint this 1,000 times. I could paint this landscape over and over. And then I fell in with some rock climbers the next day. We all ended up moving in together, and I spent my days rock climbing and then painting the scenery I was climbing.
That's amazing. And I want to remind people that are listening, if you have a question for Erin, please chat it. You have that ability to ask a question, and I'm more than happy to ask her. What advice would you have for people? I personally believe when you set the intention from a spiritual perspective to do what you want to do, that the universe conspires and helps you. What advice would you have for people who are like, okay, I'm an artist and I want to make it to full-time business, but I'm not quite there to make that leap yet?
Julie, you're absolutely right. The decision is the first step you have to make. And it doesn't need to be, I'm going to quit my job and go buy a big traveling van and become a full-time artist. I'm a big believer in gradient changes in your life, right? So you have to make the decision that you want to become an artist. And then I always tell upcoming artists, do a painting a week. That's 50 paintings a year. And yes, they may be small, but you need to be creating that kind of body of work to make a living as an artist. And you should just start painting. Just start painting, and then start scouring Craigslist. There's plenty of blogs where you can figure out ways to sell your work. That's how I found my first festival, was scouring Craigslist, in the artist section. I found a little festival at a church, and I went there, and from there I heard about the Boulder City Art Festival, and that was the first art festival I did. And I just kind of bought some grid wall and a little pop-up tent, and I showed up. I had no idea what to expect. And I sold like 6 paintings, for a couple $100 a piece, paid for all my expenses. And I was like, this is pretty neat. And the great thing about art festivals is you can do them on the weekend. You don't have to quit your day job and continue making that source. And if you're self-employed, that's even better, because then you can really kind of phase out one source of income for the art income. So as you start making more money painting, you can kind of phase out your other source, which is what I did. Now I make all my income through selling my own paintings.
Now I want you to touch on this. I've had artists who have been anti-web, anti-building a website. Now it's my personal opinion that in this day and age, one, I think it limits you, but I think it can only help you. What advice would you say to them?
We are lucky to have the internet now. We are so lucky. I can't even imagine how people sold work back in the 1800s or even like the 1900s, where they, it was all done through word of mouth. Now we have this great tool. You can reach people all across the globe who would never be able to hear about your work otherwise. It is a necessity. And it's so easy to create a website now. There's all sorts of templates that you can download, and you just change your name, you put your logo in, upload your pictures, and all the formatting is done for you, and you can start promoting your work. And you know, when you hand someone a business card, you need somewhere to direct their interest, and that place is a website.
Talk a little bit about your community of support. I think, you know, I think we all need support, but sometimes if you're doing something creative or artistic, there can be a lot of competition. I'd love to know what your experience is and what your support system is.
Well, it's definitely, I would say, mostly comes from within. When I made this decision to become an artist and to do a painting a week, this was 8 years ago. I went through 4 boyfriends. I moved 6 different times. You know what I mean? Life will throw all sorts of hardballs at you, and unless you have your own determined, you know, postulate within you, you aren't, you know, life will be able to bat you away, and you need to really be strong from within. Obviously, I have very loving parents who have always supported me, but I had to do it myself, you know what I mean? I have a degree in bioengineering. They thought I was going to go and be a medical doctor, you know, and now I kind of did this oddball switch. I went and started a business, and then you know what I mean? Then I became an artist. I travel all over the U.S. in my van, and I climb. So, you know, you're not going to get everyone's agreement necessarily in your choice of action. You really have to, it does have to come from within.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree with you 110%. I'm curious if I've talked to some people and feel their art is inspired spiritually or by something else. Sometimes they'll say they'll be in the middle of painting or writing, and as if it's coming from somewhere else, and they're just the vehicle. Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, if there's a vehicle, it's just this beautiful planet that we live on. I mean, sometimes it's incredible to me that so much beauty could exist on this mundane lump of earth. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine that it just came by accident. You know, there's no way. I live at the top of the Burbank Mountains, and I see sunsets and sunrises every day, and every day it's different. Every day it's beautiful light, and there's no way this happened by accident. You know, there's absolutely, you know, the landscape and this planet we live on is a gift and a beautiful creation, and I'm doing my best to capture that beauty and help people see it, you know, through my eyes.
Now, when you wake up each day, do you have a bunch of paintings going on in your studio, or do you like, all right, I'm starting this painting and I'm going to not do anything else until it's finished?
I do one painting at a time, yes.
Wow.
It really lends itself well to that because I'm not doing any layering, so I'm doing them wet on wet so I can start and then complete them, which is good because I have so many ideas all the time that if I started getting dispersed, I would never finish a painting, you know, so I always complete, change, and stop each piece that I work on.
That's really interesting because I would say from a creative writing perspective that I know I will have different things going on, and how my brain works in writing, it's a break when I can go on to something else and then things can percolate and then I come back to it, but I can see with painting how that would be different.
I do allow myself a little grace period where the following morning after I've completed painting and I've had all night to rest, and I try to look at it with a brand new point of view, like I've never seen it before, and I allow myself the opportunity to make a few small changes if I need to. You know, if the composition doesn't flow quite right or needs a little bit of light or color here, I will do that. But at that point, it is a done painting, and I have this discipline of never changing a painting once it's been.
Now I'm curious. I love that because you talked about the brush strokes. So I learned something new today about the minimal brush strokes. So how long, like for instance, the painting behind you, how long did that take to paint?
Well, I get my paintings done. I work about 12-hour days, and so I can usually do a painting in a day. The larger ones take a couple of days, 2 or 3 days.
Wow. I am completely amazed. Wow, that's incredible. Now, do you paint every day?
When I'm in town, I absolutely do, yes.
Wow. Okay. And then, so part of I want you to talk a little bit about the creative process, because I was talking with someone about this the other day, and I feel we live, first of all, I believe art is in the eye of the beholder. If it speaks to you, if it's beautiful, then that's awesome. It sings to you. But I also believe we're in this pop culture kind of mass produce that kind of the heart and soul has been taken out of it. And there's this pressure to create, create, create. But I believe that the creative process is cyclical. And, it sounds like when you're off hiking and backpacking, taking pictures, maybe doing some sketches, that you're still doing it, but that's maybe your downtime. Talk about your creative process.
That's so true. I whenever I'm feeling like I've seen the same landscapes too many times, or if I just can't get an exciting idea that I want to paint, all I have to do is step out on my front door, drive 4 hours in any direction, just get out of the city. I do a lot of work in Paso Robles, which is only 3 hours north of Los Angeles, and it's this beautiful, semi-developed area with the beautiful coastline and the hills and the oak trees, the little broken down fences, and so I just need to escape my studio, see the landscape again, see why I'm painting, and then I get super excited, and then I almost get overexcited, and I have so many ideas. Like, I just got back from Texas. I've been gone for a month, and I flew to Montana between shows, and oh man, Montana was so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I can't even describe it. I'm gonna try with my paintbrush, but I can't do it with words. It's just, I think it's the most beautiful state I've ever been to, and so I know I have all these ideas, and so I go on my computer and I look at the pictures I've taken, and I'm like, oh, these, obviously my photos don't do the landscape justice, so I have to convert them into a painting through composition and color and light. But I look through and I just have, like, every photo is a potential painting, and there's thousands of them, and so I get a little overwhelmed, which is a good state to be in for an artist. You want to feel like you have so many ideas that you don't know where to start.
What nature obviously inspires you, but what else inspires you when you paint?
Well, I'm a big I love listening to books while I'm painting. I grew up without a television in my house, so I grew up as a reader. Me and my three brothers and my parents would all sit around and read every evening, and so I love the escape of fiction and fantasy and science fiction and just any kind of escape. I love getting into someone else's reality, and I kind of go into my almost like a dreamland, and my paintings are kind of like that. They're very fanciful almost, and they're not painted in grays and browns and kind of drab colors the way some people see landscapes. I like to see them in beautiful colors, and so I think it does help to listen to books while I paint.
Oh, I think that I love just hearing what people's creative processes are, because they always fascinate me. Excuse me. We have a question from Steve. He asked, "Were you influenced by the Group of Seven? I see similarities in your style."
Absolutely. That's so funny that he says that. I had never heard of the Group of Seven, but I do a lot of shows in the Palm Springs area, and there's a lot of Canadians there. They're called snowbirds. They come down and they have a second home, or they spend their winters in Palm Springs, or somewhere warmer. Anyway, so I started hearing about the Group of Seven, and then by complete chance, my dad bought me a book of their work about 4 years ago for Christmas, and I started looking at it, and I connected. People would say, "Oh, a Group of Seven." I had no idea what they were talking about, and then I saw their work, and it was like immediate connection. I love the Group of Seven. They are my all-time favorite artists, absolutely.
So are they literally a group of 7 artists? I've never heard of them.
Yep, they're a group of Canadian plein air painters. I think there's some debate on whether there was a 7th painter, and then there was someone who is more recent, Emily Carr, whose work is also very beautiful. But they really captured, the way I see it is they took what might be kind of a drab landscape, Canada in the winter, it's all blues and whites and grays, and they saw the color there, and they created these beautiful color-rich paintings, and just the movement in them and the way they use what's called negative space, which is like painting the sky or the white space around a tree instead of painting the tree itself. And I use that technique in my own work. And I almost feel like I'm a reincarnation of the group of seven. Only I paint Southwest landscapes and California landscapes.
All right, great. Thanks for asking, Steve. One thing I love about your work is I normally would say that bright colors are not my thing, but you do it in a way that softens it, that the brightness still shows, but somehow just for me makes it just so beautiful.
Yep. Color is amazing. Yeah. I actually work with a limited palette, which is another of my techniques. So I only put 4 or 5 colors on my palette at any given time. So I'm creating all these subtle variations, lavenders and oranges. These are all created colors. So no painting is the same. However, they're all kind of connected and interrelated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you so you just stick with painting? Are you someone that in your spare time like to do sculpting or anything, or did you have other artistic things that you were really good at?
I never got great at any other medium. I mean, I was an okay painter. When I was a teenager, I worked in a mural studio, and we were painting in acrylics. But it was me and 7 other artists, and I wouldn't say I was a fantastic acrylic painter. They're nice, but I am a good oil painter. But I've had to develop that skill over, like I said, 8 years of doing a painting a week, and then before that, painting all through college, and then as a teenager and younger.
That's wonderful. Now, you've mentioned earlier how your parents were very supportive, and I would love for your thoughts to share with parents or aunts and uncles, anyone that's in a child's life influencing them, because I would personally like to see a paradigm shift and get rid of the term starving artist. So share some wisdom there.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm more interested in teaching workshops to other to help them make a career as an artist, as opposed to teaching technique of art, because I believe technique of art is something you kind of have to discover on your own. I was a stonemason in Las Vegas for about a year, and you learn to lay brick by laying brick. You can take all the classes you want on laying brick, and you can and you can read books about it, but until you sit there and mix the mortar and lay a couple thousand brick, then you start to really learn how to do it. Painting is the same way. It's a very physical activity, and you learn to do it by doing it, and you will develop your own techniques and your own ways that work for you well, and that's how you learn to paint. Now, my parents definitely supported me. I went to a little private school in La Cañada, and they provided art classes in any medium that I wanted to. I had the same art teacher from age 6 to when I graduated at 16.
Wow.
And it was great. My dad built me my first easel when I was about 7 years old. I still use it to this day. So I had definitely had a lot of support. Now, in terms of making a career as an artist, really, you have to be willing to get yourself out there. That's really the key. A lot of people love to paint, and they develop this wonderful style, but they never share it with anyone, and they're afraid of getting shot down, or they're afraid of getting invalidated, or maybe their art teachers invalidated them, or whatever happened. You have to be willing to show your work, to talk to people, and that's why I love art festivals, because you are forced to talk to thousands of people every week about your work, and just sit there, and you get pretty flat on people saying, oh, I don't like that, But, more often than not, people love your work, and there's always going to be people in the crowd that just stop in their tracks when they see your paintings or whatever it is that you're creating, and it's going to be the thing that speaks to them. You know what I mean? You don't need to reach everybody. You just need to reach the people that are going to respond.
Absolutely, I agree with you 110%. So I do a studio show, and then I started doing hangouts because not everyone can do Wednesday at 4 p.m. And so I was like, I interview people all over the world. And the first time I did one of these hangouts, I do little blurbs myself just on living in the present moment, kind of things that are spiritual that I like to share. And the very first time I did a Google Hangout, I hung up on myself. I don't know how I managed to do that. I was like, oh no! And then I didn't know how it worked, and it got uploaded to YouTube, but then I was like, okay, I'll hurry up and do another one. and I kid you not, I mean, it pretty much goes to straight to YouTube. It hadn't even gotten up there and someone had already put a thumbs down. And in the past, I would have been devastated, like, oh my gosh, they hate me, I'm not whatever. But I've learned as I've gotten older that, oh well, you know, and not to take things personally, that it has nothing to do with me, but how I react is about me. And I share that because I've gone from a switch. First of all, I've always been a sensitive person, and I've now used the term I'm aware, that I have a heightened awareness. But I was always taught that was a bad thing. It's you're too sensitive is a negative thing. And so I think a lot of times artists and creative people have a heightened awareness, and so they feel things much more deeply than others do. And to say the right people who love your stuff will find you, ignore the ones that don't, or that aren't positive and don't embrace it. Oh, are you there? Oh, sorry. Are you there? I don't know if we lost Erin. We're going to hold on a second. We will get her back. We'll just wait for her to pop up again. See if we can get her on again. I think she froze. I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see if we're going to add her again. Hey, Erin, are you there? Not sure what happened. Just hold on a moment. Sometimes, you know what? That happens when we're on the internet, and you just got to go with the flow. If you want to, I'd love to connect with anyone watching on Google+. Please check out, or did we get you back? No, we're still having problems trying to get Erin back. So I just want to let people know we will get her back, but her website is erinhanson.com. That's E-R-I-N Hanson.com, and we'll make sure that we have that on the write-up. And she is part of the new series that I've done on Google Plus called Reawaken Your Brilliance Artist Series. I think it's really important to have different artists on and share what they're doing in an effort to support them. So we will hopefully get her back very soon. I'm not sure what's happening. Sometimes internet connections. I know they've had some fires out in San Diego. I don't know if it would be affecting anything in Los Angeles. And please, if you have a question for Erin, please email us, and when we get her back, we will go ahead and chat with her. We'd love to hear your experiences, and if you are an artist, please contact me, Julie at Reawaken Your Brilliance. Again, I'm looking for, as a platform to help people and different artists, and we're just going to try one more time, I think, to get Erin here. And let's see. We'll try to go ahead and get her back on. And I'll see if I can pull her up. I have the technology here, and sometimes it happens. I'm just going to pull this up. I'm sorry, I have to be honest, this has not happened in a while, actually ever on a Google Hangout that I've done, but I have been in the studio before when things have dropped off, and sometimes you just have to go with the flow. So we're going to try to, again, get a hold of her, but please check out all our other stuff. Okay, I'm just typing here to connect again. But let me know, besides the Reawaken Your Brilliance show and the Reawaken Your Brilliance Artist Series, I do Our New Earth, Assisting the New Generation, where we talk about different topics regarding assisting kids. Also, most of Reawaken Your Brilliance is body, mind, spirit topics. I also have Clearing the Clutter from the Inside and Out, which is, I talk about different ways. I'm a huge fan. If you have clutter on the inside, it's going to reflect in your environment. Same if you start on the inside or the outside, whatever you do is going to help move you forward and do that. And I think that that's really important. But you can find out more on my channel, Julie Caraccio. We're going to try one more time to add, and I apologize. I'm not sure what happens if she's just had a computer meltdown. We're going to invite her one more time, and I'm trying to text her as well and see if we can get her back. Okay. So she's not showing up. Okay, well, I think that we are going to have to end it. It's been about 5 minutes now. I'm really sorry. But we got at least a good half hour of talking with Erin Hanson. I encourage you again to look at her website, erinhanson.com. And thank you for joining us, and I hope you make it a great day. Again, you can find out all videos. Julie Caraccio is my YouTube channel, and reawakenyourbrilliance.com site. And hopefully we'll get Erin on again soon. I had a couple more questions that I wanted to ask her. I think love her stuff, and would love to hear more about her artistic process. Okay, everyone, get out there and make it a great day. Although, you know what? I'm going to hang on 1 second and see if she emailed me. I'm trying to connect to her on Google Plus, but it looks like it's not her that emailed. Okay, all right, everyone. Please check back on YouTube and or on Reawaken Your Brilliance. Okay, thank you for watching, Steve. Hopefully, again, I apologize for technical difficulties for everyone, but please, if there's a topic or guest you'd like to see, email me at julie@reawakenyourbrilliance.com and check out our archives. I've interviewed a lot of amazing people, as my goal is to change the world one interview at a time. All right, everyone, make it a great day and have a wonderful weekend. Bye now.